I first met Mr. Mandela in 1948 when we were fellow students at Wits University. He was then a very articulate spokesperson of the ANC Youth League. He was, for all practical purposes, the leader of the small group of black students, primarily of Indian and descent, but there were a number of Africans and a number of colored. But he was the spokesperson of the small percentage of students that were at Wits, and who spoke very strongly against the apartheid policy, which came into being on the year that we met in 1948. He was my senior by a number of years, and he also was critical of the university authorities that appeared to be singing to the tune of the apartheid regime in part. Although they wanted to remain what was called an open university, they nevertheless thought that we students shouldn't make too much noise, because if we made too much noise, they would sooner or later prevent black students from coming to the university, something that Mr. Mandela, certainly all the black students, and some of us that held office on the Students' Representative Council, even though white, would associate ourselves with the aspirations of the black students. I consider myself a very fortunate man to have crossed the paths of such heroes of the struggle. I think that I'm given too much credit for the little I did in comparison to the suffering of others who were jailed. A couple were sentenced to death. They were banned or had to go into exile. They were detained without trial. But they were an example to me and others by the selfless way in which they were prepared to put their liberty in danger, they're under danger of actually being struck off the roll of attorneys or advocates by taking a more prominent part in the struggle than I and a number of other lawyers did, which compared to their sacrifices, the 60s and early 70s were very tough on political prisoners, and particularly those on Robben Island. In fact, Ahmed Kathadra, who was one of the accused in the Rivonia trial and who became and still is a close friend, has written and spoken about how important it was for the prisoners to actually see children, any children, including the children of the warders that passed by their cells early in the morning to catch the ferry to go to school in Cape Town. Prisoners could not see their children, could see their wives in the beginning only once every 6 months, and then for a very limited period. There was even a time early on that they would not allow them to have a picture of their wives and children in their cell, and only as a result of the pressure that were people of the integrity and strength of character of Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu and Govan, and Mbeki, Kathrada, and the others who refused to bend the knee and insisted for at least the minimum rights that other prisoners were entitled to. And eventually the authorities gave in on small matters like allowing a photograph or allowing an extra letter more often. But they are the heroes, really. They are the people that really suffered. But there was one thing about them. They were very optimistic about the future. I was privileged to allow to see Mr. Mandela practically on request. And Winnie was very good in finding reasons as to why I should visit Nelson, with questions such as which school, what should the children go to, and what subjects should they take, and this, that, or the other. And their optimism that they would not serve their full term was a great encouragement to us who were outside, that if they could hold out, who were we to think of quitting?